What's the guy's name? I can't think of it. We'll edit this
Oscar
out,
Wilde.
Ben. Oh,
Oscar Wilde.
Oscar Wilde, but just edit this out, Ben. I was like, in my head, I was like, the Irish gay man, and I could... True. Hello, hello!
Hey, hey!
Welcome back to another episode of isbn-depth. I am Sam, she is Launa. We're super excited for today's topic, which is back to school reads. Do they pass or fail?
Yes, and before we get into any programs or events, we did want to let you guys know some exciting news. So obviously we are already on Buzzsprout, YouTube, and Spotify, and we have now added Amazon Music and Google Podcasts.
So we are moving up in the world. You should fear us.
Yes.
Or send gifts, whatever works. We're becoming famous.
Yes, absolutely.
Alright, so back to school. August 5th, KFL, King Family Library. We're having our back to school kids and teen clothing swap. So for the week before August 5th, you can bring in gently used teen clothes, kids clothes. We won't be taking any adult clothes, I'm sorry, but stuff that kids and teens will wear, and also if it's, clean and in pretty good shape. So when you give us those clothes, we'll go through them and make sure we can take them, and then we'll give you tokens. And from 10 a.m. to 1, shoppers can come in and with those tokens and exchange a token for an item of clothing. And then from 1 to 2, people who don't have tokens can come and shop around and take what's left. So
yeah. And on August 19th from 3:30 to 4:30 or while pizza lasts, we are going to have a back to school pizza party that is for all students and families.
I'm looking forward to the pizza party, I'm not gonna lie.
So I'm hoping I can steal a few slices. I don't know if I'll get away with it or
I
not.
think we can. I want to know though what brand are we doing? Little Caesars?
Oh, that's
Domino's?
another debate.
I forgot to mention really quick, during the back to school shopping, we're also having a resource fair at the same time. So, that's bang for your buck.
Yeah, and if you guys are around over the rest of the summer or right before school starts back, if you want to come in for the pizza party, we do ask that parents and students turn in their information sheets. That's just contact emergency information. If your kid stays here after school, we need to be able to get in contact with someone immediately if something were to happen to them.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to have our reading challenge in the fall. It is Don't Become Extinct, Read at Your Library. So this year it's going to be dinosaur themes, and we encourage everybody of all ages. That means you adults, not just your kids. You can come in and, from what I understand, there's going to be like dinosaur footprints cut out, and then you write down what you've read, and they're going to stick it around the library so you can see the dinosaur tracks. And we want to get as many dinosaur tracks as possible. We want to look like Jurassic Park, like all the movies combined. That's how many we want.
Yeah, and we do have a lot of after-school opportunities coming up. Jessica and Lisa are children's and teen librarian. They are fantastic with providing multiple opportunities for your children to learn and just have fun with students their age and learn some new skills. So if you guys are interested, if your kids are staying here after school, I would definitely encourage you guys to try it out.
And if you have any questions, feel free to contact us, and we can always send you to their rooms through their phone, or you can either come in and go to the rooms and visit it for yourself. They can tell you a lot more about their programming than we can. They do so much every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have a few really cool Seymour events coming up if you're one of our Seymour patrons. So the Seymour Friends of the Library are having a How We Live Then and Now event. That's going to be on August 16th at 7 p.m. And they will be driving through the history on a virtual tour, and that's going to be at the Boyd's Creek area with Anna Garber and Colleen Shannon. My bad. And then I believe they're also having their final Summer Sound and Sweets event just for this year, though. And that'll be on August 12th. There will be live music, and it is completely free and open to the public. And then they will be performing from 7 to 8:30. And our performers will be Steve Kirtley and the New Victory Band.
I think, didn't Linda say the New Victory Band's kind of popular or something?
I've heard of it before. I don't know much about them. I'm not sure what kind of music they play, but the name is familiar.
Yeah, so we're going to have some local stars there, and it's always good just to have an evening out.
Yeah.
So speaking of evening outs, the county fair is around the corner. I love the fair. Everybody's like, It's so dangerous. I'm like, let me get on the most dangerous ride there is. Like, what's the point of living if you can't go on the thing that takes you upside down and spins you at the same time? I love that ride. Anyway, but your local library, will have a display there from August 30th to September 5th, when the fair is. And you can stop by and see our library's display featuring our libraries over the year. I think we're going to focus a little bit on Seymour, at least in photographs, because it's a new building that just opened up. But still, come by, say hi to your local librarians between, eating deep fried Oreos and playing the Balloon Game.
True.
So this is just a little plug for me because I am vain. But the starting this month, which would be what month are we at? August? Yeah. Anyway, starting in August, every third Monday from 5:30 to 7:30, there's going to be an adult anime club. So it's going to be for everybody 18 and older, but don't worry if you've got kids or people that are 18 and younger. 17 and younger. And then I'm going to be having a anime club starting for them during the school year. It'll be starting in September, and I'll tell you more about that on the next podcast. But there's also flyers up, and I never remember the dates. But it's going to be a lot of fun. I have plans. It seems like I've got a lot of kind of cooking involved. Like we're going to make onigiri, which are like rice balls, make some ramen one day. It's just going to be a mix of things. Also to, see what the adults like to do. But there's going to be crafts and whatnot. I'm really excited for it. I just made some of the plans for it. And I was like, yeah, let's get this going as I cry at my desk. It's stressful to plan.
Yes.
It really is, and I'm doing it months in advance, and I'm like, oh my god, I hope people show up. Oh my god, I hope they like this. So please.
Yeah, and just to, plug her even more, she really has put in a lot, and a lot of effort and work into planning this out. And honestly, half of it, I'm like, if only I didn't work here and I could actually come to every single one of these, you know? So it just sounds amazing. She's put a lot of effort into it, and I think you guys will all really, really enjoy it if you come and try it out.
Plus, I just really want friends with interests, so, the kids are fine, but I need people my age to also like the things I like. Another thing we're going to have going on is the reading pays. So, actually, it's been ongoing. It's been ongoing. We just kind of don't tell about it often. It slips our minds.
Yeah.
So it's a little plug for that. So there's going to be there's a punch card at the circulation. It's got 10 little library books on it. And so for every book you read, you can come tell us about it. Just, prove that you read it, pass the synopsis flap. And we'll stamp it. And each of those books is worth $8. And if you have late fees, then we'll punch out the so if you have $2 in late fees and 3 books read, we'll punch out the first 2. And so it's a nice way to be able to read those fines down. See, our children don't get fines, but we haven't made it that far for the adults. But we want ways for the adults to keep coming to the library because we are for you 100%. And if for some reason you have over $10 in library fines, you can still participate in the program. You just have to sit down and read the books here in the library. But just come down, tell us about the book you read, and we'll stamp the card and get that worked out. Because you just have to have it below $10. You can have it at $9.99, and they'll let you do it. So yeah, just make sure to stop by the circulation desk, and we'll tell you more about it. Give you a little card. So. That's, but again, another gentle reminder, it's just for fines, not for charge-offs. Charge-offs are the books, you didn't bring back and now you have to pay the price of the book. So it doesn't, count for lost or damage or other charges, just strictly overdue fees. So I wish they had a version where you could watch movies.
Yeah.
It's I just watched all of Downton Abbey. Can I punch my card? I think that's now moving to the meat after we've got the housekeeping done.
Yep, and I'm so excited because I know we're going to get off on a million different tangents.
This one was your idea too, wasn't it?
It was my idea because, I'm still in college, right? So I still have required reading. And we've all experienced it. I know, I chose the punishment for myself, but still, it's a very dear and near topic to my heart. So today we are going to be talking about books that we have read in school. Most of them are in common, some of them are not, and we even gave each other some assigned reading.
Oh yeah.
And this is basically just
some
to tell
of
you
us
guys.
didn't finish the reading.
We'll get to that in a minute, but obviously this is basically encouragement for you guys that even if you're still in school or you're like, oh my gosh, I've had horrible experiences with school required reading, we all have. And that's what we'll be talking about today.
Good moments too. Like
we have many good moments.
Good. Like it's especially like the required reading you had me do. I enjoyed the novel very, very much.
Yeah.
And I reread a few things I recommended to Lana and also on this podcast, and it was just a nice like. Some of them held the test of time better than others, but I never was like, oh, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. But I always liked reading. There's very few required readings that I did not. Like, I like to read on the, the TCAP where they have the test section where you read the section to answer the question. I like to read those.
Oh, you're one of the people that did like really well on the reading ACT.
Yeah, I did.
It's okay, I did too. It's fine. But anyway, so to start off, which we don't have all of the books that we're talking about pulled for today, just because we don't have enough room. Yeah. There's not enough room, but the first one, which I'm sure is what comes to most people's minds, is To Kill a Mockingbird.
So did you read that one?
I did read that. I read that in freshman English in high school.
I read it first for fun, because I heard it was a classic, but then I was assigned for freshman English also, and it's not my favorite. It's okay.
See, it being my first, like, truly, like, classic required reading, like, I had started reading classics before that in middle school, but this is the first one I had been, like, assigned. Mm-hmm. I actually did really like it. Just as a first-time reader, I think I would give it an A to grade it.
Yeah, I think I'd give it an A. I think by the time I read it again in high school, I was kind of bored of it because I just read it like a year before, but, like, it's not a bad story, and I think I enjoyed reading it on my own, so.
Yeah, and I already warned Sam, I can't talk about To Kill a Mockingbird without talking about the sequel, because it was so controversial when it came out. The sequel is called Go Set a Watchman, and it basically topples every single idea that Jean has about her father, and I think that's what a lot of people who don't like. Because, I mean, there are very controversial themes in To Kill a Mockingbird. I mean, it was a banned book at one point, I'm pretty sure.
Probably still is.
Yeah, probably still is in several places. But a lot of the reasons it was banned is exactly what gets taken away from it in the sequel. So I definitely think if you're someone who you didn't really love it because of that one part, where Atticus just seems to be this like white savior, go read the sequel because it just completely destroys it.
Because it paints a more complicated version of Atticus. Because you didn't really get that from Scout's perspective. He was just the good guy, doing his best to like in his trial. So
yeah, exactly.
And what's that? Oh, so I think the next on the list is Island of the Blue Dolphins. I remember I read this one in like elementary school, and I really, really loved it. Like I loved how like to me it was a story of like survival and strength, and I just and a person being alone for most of the book. I guess I like solitary main characters more than I realized, but I recently read it. Like I reread it yesterday actually, and because as a kid, you had to read chapter by chapter or whatever with the class. But like I read it in probably like 3 or 4 hours, and that's in between my job of like ringing people up at the cash register. And it was still good. I think I didn't like the writing style as much as an adult, and I don't know if it was simplified because he's trying to write a Native American character and this is the 1960s, or if it was just simple because it was a children's book. But and I kind of read on the Wikipedia page because I just wanted to know more information. Like I didn't realize the island was set off the coast of California, based on I think St. Nicholas Island, something like that. Yeah. And it was based off a real lady, and you can look at her Wikipedia page. It's not very, very long. And I wondered if there was any controversy about like a white guy writing about the point of view of a Native American woman from like the 1800s. And he's been both praised and condemned for it because it just depends on your interpretation of the work. Like some people thought of it like as white saviorism as she's waiting to be rescued, but like when I read it, I didn't really feel that way because at first she kind of was like waiting to be rescued, but it wasn't so much like she was dependent on it. And then over time, like it just didn't matter to her anymore. Yeah. And then when she at the very end, when she returns back to humanity, but returns back to where the people are. Spoiler alert. She dies in real life, but and spoiler alert, she does go back though. But the thing was, she was it wasn't so much she needed to go back; it's just she wanted to because she wanted to be around people again. Yeah. She was just lonely, and it wasn't so much of like I don't know. I thought it was a good piece of work. I'd probably give it like a B. My younger self would have definitely given it an A plus, but I think I gave it a B just because of the writing style.
Yeah, and see, I've not read it, and there's going to be a few, like we said, that we both haven't read.
There's quite a lot. We didn't, like, we both had read Shakespeare, but did you read Hamlet or did you read Macbeth? Or,
exactly.
It was just one of those, like, or, if you had to read a Holocaust book, like, which Holocaust book was it? Things like that. And so we found that we actually didn't have too many in common, which is why we went with the required reading.
Yeah, and I think I like that about the fact that we had so much, like, difference in what we had to read in school, because it shows that, like, obviously not everything's going to be the same.
Yeah, so, and, like, so did you mostly go to school in this area? Like,
Sevier County from, birth to, even now I'm still at a community college near here, so.
And I was, like, nearby, because I was, like, in elementary school, I was in Marable, and then as a younger kid in middle school and stuff, and most of high school I was in Knox County, and in my very senior year I was, like, at Sevier County, so, like, it shows that there's, like, some flexibility between, like, teachers and, like, learning material, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's next? 1984 by George Orwell.
Yes, I technically thought I was going to have to read this one for school, which is the reason why I read it over one summer, and then we got to class the first day. She was like, I changed my mind, we're not doing that anymore. So, but I wanted to read it anyways, it was one of those, like, okay, well, I'll just go ahead and read it, and you're, like, kind of excited, right?
Yeah.
And I really, really loved the book at first, but looking back at it now, I only truly remember the parts that I hated.
I have, like, not a really good memory. Like, I've read it. I read it for class. I think I was in high school. Might have been senior year. But the thing is, I just don't really remember much about it. I remember something about rats. And I remember the back and forth in the newspaper. One day something was there, and the next day it was redacted.
Yeah.
Like, that was kind of neat. But as far as, like, the overarching plot, I really get it mixed up with Fahrenheit 451 for some reason. Like, those two just, you got the dystopian, and you kind of got, like, one guy who's pining after a girl who shows him that it can be changed. It's very much its own genre.
Yeah.
So, and I know, like, 1984 was popular just a couple years ago with all the just the Big Brother stuff. And,
I definitely think the themes in it are still relevant. Obviously, it's kind of hard to imagine, because I believe the book was written in 1949 or something, sometime around there. So it's kind of one of those, like, wow, he was really ahead of his time. It's some of the things that he talks about. But then there's other stuff that's just like, okay, it's dystopian, like 100%. But I'd still, looking back at it, I'd probably give it a B plus, somewhere in there.
I'll give it, like, a C. I don't have enough of a memory to rejudge it, and I don't really feel like rereading it right now. Let's see here. The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald.
You gotta love Gatsby a little bit, right?
I love you, Gatsby.
I love The Great Gatsby. I read it my junior year of high school, I believe, for an AP class.
I don't remember when I read it, to be honest. I know I read it several times, but I don't recall why or when or how. To me, it's a nice depressed read. Like, if you feel like a depressing story, read Great Gatsby.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of those, like, American dream
Shattered.
Yeah, which is more reality, unfortunately. But I love the plot. I love the theme. I honestly like the book more than the movie, which is not as popular of an opinion, because most people are like, oh my gosh, the movie was so amazing. But honestly, the movie gave me, like, just a headache trying to watch it.
See, I really liked the movie. I'm not saying it was better than the book. I liked them both, but I'm speaking about the newish one with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
I really like what they did with the music soundtrack to make it feel fresh and new, what jazz would have felt like to them at the time. And and visually I just thought it was a neat movie, but I can see how it could give someone a headache with the flashing lights and the slow-mo fast forward and things like that. But honestly, I felt like it did a very good job in that medium.
Oh, it definitely captured, I think, like the, I hate to use the word vibe, but
the spirit.
The spirit. Yes, the spirit. Let's use some not, Gen Z language here. But I definitely think the movie was fitting, and I do love the cast of it, but it was just the way this film, that's just a little off topic, but.
Nights by Ellie Wiesel. Is that
Wiesel or Wessel? I can't remember.
I've never read it.
Yes, and I specifically put it on this list because I could just talk about it nonstop of how much I didn't like it. And honestly, for that reason, I would love to just fail it right now, give it an F. But I know it's a classic for a reason. It was required for a reason. And looking back, I'd probably actually give it like a C- because it did make me feel things. Okay, like I was sad. I cried when I read it, but I also like wanted it to end. And you can look at it and see that it's not a big book at all.
It's a very thin book for those who are tuning in over the audio.
But I still just did not like it. I know, like, obviously I love stuff that's like historical like Night, because obviously it's set in the Holocaust era, follows the point of view of a boy going through concentration camps. And I love hearing stories about that, and I love that kind of setting because it is like devastating and it's heartbreaking, and I think it's important to recognize books like that.
Humans just really like tragedy.
Yes.
That's why events like the Titanic and the Holocaust and World War II and World War I, like they're just kind of popular in media.
Yeah, exactly. But I've also read books also set in that era that I liked even better, like Milkweed. I had to read in 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
It's still that Holocaust follows, I believe it still follows a boy through his whole experience in it, but it is more fiction. Whereas this is a little bit more on the non-fiction side, which, I mean, in my opinion, should make a book better, but I just still did not love it.
Honestly, I can't think of a required reading that made me read a Holocaust read. I really can't. Like, I've read Holocaust books, but it was more of on my own. I don't think I had a class sit down and go, we're going to read this. That's an interesting thing.
See, I've had 3. So I had Night in high school. In middle school, there was Milkweed. That was in 8th grade, like I said. And then Number the Stars in 5th grade.
Yeah.
So
I think I've read like The Book Thief, and that was recommended to me by a high school librarian, but it wasn't like a required reading.
Yeah. Which, side note, if you've never read Number the Stars, I love it. It was my favorite book for a very, very long time.
I guess my plug is I really love The Book Thief. So.
Yeah.
I can't read Night. I have not read it. I guess I kind of am tempted to read it, but I've got a really long
Yeah, it's kind of like
list.
I'm tempted to read Island of the Blue Dolphins.
You can get that done in an afternoon. Okay, The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne.
Yeah, that was another junior year AP read.
I read it on my own because it was one of my mom's favorite books, and
See, I really enjoyed it. I'd probably give it a B plus, somewhere in there, just because I did really like the plot and I did like the book overall. I enjoyed the writing. I know a lot of people in my class when we read it just hate it because they couldn't understand half the words. But I kind of like books where I have to look at some things, that, and I read so much that there were some words that I could just understand.
It's a very meh read for me, sort of like Jane Eyre. Like, I didn't love it, I didn't hate it, it was just something I had to read. Let's move on to the assigned reading section because we're kind of eating up time here.
Yeah.
So
do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
So I assigned Launa Our Town by Thornton Wilder, which I read in senior year in high school for a acting class, and I assigned her Frankenstein, which I also read my senior year by Mary Shelley, the mother of sci-fi.
Yeah, which I'm so sorry. It would not be a back to school episode if one person did not finish the assignment, and I'm sticking to that narrative because I could not finish Frankenstein before we filmed for this podcast. And it's one of those things where I love the writing of it. I think I'm on page like 105 or somewhere in there.
You're halfway through it, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm halfway through, and honestly, I'm definitely going to finish it because I've just been excusing not reading it for years now because this is actually my personal copy if you're watching this that I have here on the display. But there's just parts in the plot where I'm like, okay, we get it, you're a little depressed, let's move along, Frankenstein, please.
We get it, you're an edgelord.
Yes, we understand you're the actual monster here. not your creation. You don't understand that you have consequences to your actions, you know?
Oh no. Oh no, a white boy discovers he has access to his consequences.
Yes, that's how it feels right now. And then, you know, he's like in love with his cousin, who's not actually his cousin by marriage or blood. So, like, it's okay. But then it's also just part of his personality right now. So, I will finish it, I promise. But at the moment, I'd give it a B plus right now.
I think I'd give it an A. Again, I haven't reread it in a minute, but I really enjoyed it. That's why I assigned it to her A, because she hadn't read it yet.
Yeah.
I need to give her an excuse to, but B, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
What about Our Town?
Our Town, I loved. I actually finished reading it while I was ending a shift here because it was just so quiet. It was the perfect opportunity, and I was so close to crying at the very end. It's just one of those plays where it definitely shows you that if you don't slow down in life, you're going to miss a lot. And it's just very quaint and kind of depressing. I think it would be a good depression read, to be honest.
Yeah, it's like a small town life, but a lot of the things, it's stuff that transcends time.
Yeah.
Same themes, you see the same people, the same comments. It's, I mean, there's a little for the vernacular changes because, you know, life goes on, but the overarching themes go over. I remember I was doing it and we were reading it out loud in theater class, and I remember I think I was like the only one very tore up at the end. Everybody else said, "Yeah, it's another play, let's go." But I was like, oh, I need a moment. And then I reread it and I liked it, but I guess because I knew what was going to happen, I wasn't as gripped by it. I would love to see this production, though. If there's ever an Our Town production nearby, I would like to go see it.
I definitely would. I definitely think it's worth it, and it was very enjoyable to read. Like, I definitely would read it again one day. But on to what I assigned for Sam, which she was good. She was one of the teacher's pets.
I read extra.
She read extra, and she finished the assignment early, you guys.
Remember, I was the kid who read the reading sections on TCAPs for fun.
Yes, exactly. So just keep that in mind. But for the novel, I assigned her Kite Runner, and I will not even try to attempt to butcher this man's last name. His first name is Khaled. But the Kite Runner is something that, believe it or not, I had to read for choir, which sounds weird, and I agree, because it is. My choir director just decided to torture me. So we were assigned like 10 chapters of it, I believe, and we had to write a reflection because he thought we needed to do writing assignments more. And I ended up picking it up like a month later at Books A Million, finished it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in love. Mm-hmm. So I was very interested to see what you would think of it.
I really liked it. This one probably gets a solid A from me. My only complaint was like the protagonist was very passive, but I think that was the point, is him to be passive the whole book for him to finally go into action at the end. So like I can forgive it as a plot device, but is he my most favorite main character? No, not really. But it was really good. But what I think I really enjoyed about it was I don't know much about Afghanistan, and then like I know like the wars that have been going on since I was born. Yeah. But I don't know about them. Like I know of them and not about them, and so it was interesting to see like a little bit of that through a native person's point of view. Yeah. Even if they immigrated to America and then came back, like it's. So you get a little bit of both the experience. You get like the native, but you also get someone from the outside in a little way, because he definitely felt like a foot in both worlds. Yeah. Especially with like meeting the people who had stayed through all the war stuff and everything, and almost made different people, but it wasn't necessarily the truth. It was just and then it had some really, really deep topics like that, and just stuff to think over. So I really did enjoy The Kite Runner. I read it in a couple of days. I did enjoy it. Yeah. And then the play I assigned her was The Boss Menagerie by Tennessee Williams, which was honestly, other than Shakespeare, one of the first like real plays I had just sat down and read, and that's because it was required for a college English class. So what did you think about that one? It was okay. It wasn't my very favorite, and I don't know if maybe it would be, all plays I think are better as plays, because the people get to breathe life into it. I was very annoyed by Tennessee Williams' stage directions because you're not supposed to write paragraphs on it to tell the actors how to feel, and it could have been just a different thing. Writing plays and when was this written? What year was this?
I'm not entirely sure. I do know because I know we were talking about it a little bit.
1945.
1945.
At least that's when. Yeah, so it could be just the 1945's version of a play, or it could have just been Tennessee Williams himself. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It was okay. I feel like it would be nice to have this in a class to discuss like the depth into it, because I don't feel like maybe I missed some of the depth. But it was like all the characters sort of lived in their own worlds. Like the mother lived in the past, the son lived in the future, and the daughter lived in the present, and they all kind of. I did really like the interactions between the mother and the son because they felt true to today, like people arguing how they would argue. And it was nice to not see like a picture perfect family. And I think that was the point of it too, was just all these people they in Tennessee Williams was like he said like they're not normal. Like the person who comes in at the end, the gentleman caller, is supposed to be normal and offset the oddness of the family. But I didn't find the family so odd as much as just
I didn't either, to be honest. I felt that they were very realistic, and we've talked about it before. I love the book or the play because I related to Laura,
and
the daughter,
to the son.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting how different we related to it. But I just loved the symbolism in it, and I found out actually doing a little bit more research on it during that assignment. Laura was actually based off of Tennessee Williams' sister.
Okay, so then Tennessee Williams in that perspective, because the son wanted, I can't think of his name, wanted to be a writer and everything, and was kind of skirting his own normal job to do that, and wanted to go out and see adventures. So that, I guess it's his nod to his home life.
Yeah.
And it would make sense, like just had the setting of it and everything. It was set in like I think the 1930s. They was set in. But it was okay. I wanted more. Can you explain the symbolism of the glass animals? Do you remember?
Yeah, so the glass menagerie is basically supposed to represent how different each character is. And then the glass itself is supposed to represent Laura's like fragileness, because obviously her personality is supposed to come off as very like pulled in a couple different directions. So that's another symbolism of the actual menagerie of animals, is that she has some things that are more, how would you describe it, kind of close to her, and then there's some other animals that are a little bit different, like they're more out there, and it's just supposed to be a little bit of a mix. But a lot of the symbolism in it revolves around Laura, because she is like the central point in the play.
It's interesting, because I just I got that both her mother and her brother cared about her, but to me she wasn't the glue for me. So it's very interesting, like how we. And it might be just how we relate to the certain characters and stuff like that. Like I just wasn't picking up. Like I gathered that the glass was, she was fragile, but I didn't think too far into her, like what the animals themselves represented and things like that. So yeah, I think that about concludes it. We don't want to run this too long. I know you love us, but
yeah, I guess we'll wrap it up. Even though I could probably sit here and talk about like every single book I've had to read required, Because, honestly, most of them I have absolutely loved and very much enjoyed, and it's just like maybe even more that I've liked. But as we've discussed, there's just some that just don't cut it.
So, hopefully when you guys are, going back to school, if you guys are listening and still going to school, maybe you can find some enjoyment in some of your reading, or you can think about, like, our opinions if we read the same things. And if you haven't read any of your back-to-school books in a while, it wouldn't hurt to revisit them, see if they still pass or fail in your opinion.
Yeah, true. And as always, before we end off, we always want to thank Ben for helping us do this in general, because, like we say, we couldn't if it wasn't for him.
We literally could.
Yeah. So thank you guys for tuning in.
Bye-bye.
Bye.